All right, let's dive in. We hear a lot about new recycling tech, bigger landfills, but what if the real solution to our waste problem isn't about stuff at all? What if it's about us? So get this, the World Bank estimates that by 2050, the amount of waste we generate globally is going to jump by 70%. Yeah, 70. That is a massive, massive problem, and it's growing way faster than we can keep up.
And that leads to a pretty obvious question, right? We're throwing all this technology and money at the problem, we're building better systems, more landfills. So why are we losing the battle? What are we missing here?
Well, it turns out the answer might not be in our garbage cans, but in our heads. The real game changer, the big pivot in how we need to think about this crisis, it all boils down to this one idea.
Think about it. You could have the most brilliant, high-tech waste management system on the planet, but it's totally useless if people don't use it right. Sorting, composting, just buying less stuff in the first place. It all comes down to the tiny decisions you and I make every single day. Our habits can either make the whole system work or they can break it.
Okay, so if our behavior is the real problem, then it seems like behavioral science should be a huge part of the solution. Let's pop the hood and look at the toolkit scientists are actually using to kind of nudge us in a better direction.
Now, when you look at the strategies they use, something really interesting pops out. More than half the time, they use education or feedback, just giving us information. But here's the kicker. It's almost always paired with something else, which tells you that just knowing what to do, it's usually not enough to get us to actually do it.
And these other tools can be surprisingly powerful. Take social norms. Just telling people how their energy bill compares to their neighbors can make a huge difference because, well, nobody wants to be that neighbor. Or economic incentives, right? In Romania, they found that lower fees for people who sort their waste works wonders. And get this, in the UK, they saw more food waste recycling just by putting smiley face emojis on the bins. How simple is that?
But hold on, there's a fascinating twist in the story. It turns out that the problems we're using these tools on, well, they aren't always the biggest problems. A lot of the time, they're just the easiest ones to measure.
There's this great analogy for it called the street lamp effect. Picture this. You lose your keys in a dark park, but you only search for them under the single street lamp. Not because you lost them there, but because that's where you can see. Well, researchers kind of do the same thing. A whopping 48% of studies on waste focus on electricity and water. Why? Because the data is super clean and easy to track. Meanwhile, the really messy stuff like food waste and solid trash gets left in the dark.
And this tendency to focus on what's easy to see, it feeds right into this huge debate that's at the very heart of the field. And the question is this: should we be trying to fix people, or should we be trying to fix the world they live in? This is what researchers call the I frame, for individual, versus the S frame, for system. So the I frame is all about personal responsibility. It's about nudging you to make a better choice. The S frame, on the other hand, says, hang on, the problem is the system itself. It argues we need better policies, better infrastructure to make the right choice the super easy, no-brainer choice for everyone.
So which one is it? Individual or system? Let's get out of the abstract and look at a real-world case study from the city of Karibga in Morocco. This really brings it to life.
So, researchers went to Karibga and just asked people, what's the biggest problem with waste here? And their answers were crystal clear. A massive 54%, more than a half, said there just weren't enough public bins. Another 16% said there were no bins at all in their area. So look at that. The vast majority of complaints aren't about lazy neighbors. They're about a broken system. They're system frame problems. And this is where the rubber meets the road. Because the system is so unreliable, what happens? People's behavior adapts. Nearly half of all the households there just throw out their trash whenever, because the collection schedule is a total mess. It's a textbook example of how a broken systems frame directly causes those I-frame behaviors we don't want to see.
So, this leads us to the real breakthrough insight here. It's not about choosing a side, individual versus system. It's about seeing how the two are deeply connected, how good systems are what actually build good habits that last.
To understand this, we need to talk about a cool psychological concept called perceived behavioral control, or PBC. It sounds complicated, but it's super simple. It's just your belief about how easy or hard something is. If composting seems like a giant pain, your PBC is low, and you're probably not going to do it. But if it's effortless, your PBC is high, and you're way more likely to give it a shot.
And that PBC is the magic ingredient for building a new habit. It works in 3 steps.
First, the system has to make it dead simple. That gives you high PBC. Then, because it's so easy, the action starts to feel effortless. And finally, when you repeat that effortless action enough times, boom, it becomes an automatic habit. And this isn't just theory. A study in Bangladesh proved this exact chain of events. Better systems led to higher PBC, and that was the secret sauce for creating lasting recycling habits.
And you see this pattern everywhere once you start looking for it. In Colombia, they literally just gave people composting kits, making it super easy to start. In Bangladesh, making collection convenient was the key. In Ontario, Canada, they built a province-wide tracking system, which gave them the data they needed to manage waste way better. In every single case, a change to the system made the right individual behavior the easy behavior.
So, what is the big takeaway from all this research? I think it's that this whole debate, individual versus system, is kind of a red herring. It's the wrong way to look at it.
Really, it all comes down to this one simple truth. We need the S frame to make the I frame possible. It's the systemic changes that create the right environment, the fertile soil where good individual habits can actually take root and grow. I mean, you can't really blame someone for not recycling if there's no recycling bin for miles, right?
As one of the sources we looked at just puts it so perfectly, policy and personal responsibility, they go hand in hand. You absolutely cannot have one without the other. So in the end, we have this amazing toolkit from behavioral science. We know how to help shape and encourage better habits. That's not the mystery anymore. The real question, the one we're left with, is a lot bigger. It's whether we have the collective will to actually build the systems that make doing the right thing the easiest thing for everyone. Something to think about. Thanks for tuning in.